Welcome. Today we are going to discuss about the battery ignition system in IC engine. So let's give a small intro about this battery ignition system. So most of the modern spark plug ignition engine uses battery ignition system. In this system, the engine required for producing a spark in obtained from a 6 or 12 volt battery. Generally, in spark plug engine, petrol is used. The engine itself doesn't have this amount of temperature that can self ignite the petrol. So, in spark plug ignition engine, we need this battery ignition system to produce a spark which will ignite the fuel. So next, what are the essential components of a battery ignition system? So we have a battery ignition switch, a ballast resistor, ignition coil is the main important part of the battery ignition system. Next, contact breaker and spark plug. So let's discuss all these parts briefly. So battery is used to provide the energy for the ignition. So this battery has to be driven, and which is driven by the dynamo, and this dynamo is driven by the engine. But later on we will discuss magnetic induction system, in which it doesn't need any energy from the engine. It can be driven by its own magnetic field. Next, it converts the chemical energy to electric energy. Generally, two types of battery used in spark ignition system. One is lead acid battery and is alkaline battery. So the main function of this battery is to turn on or off the ignition system. So battery is connected to the primary winding of induction coil by ignition switch and the ballast resistor, which we will see in later. Next, we have this ballast resistor. So it is connected in series with primary winding to regulate the current in primary winding. You can just imagine it as a fuse that's generally used in our electric system of our home. So it is used to prevent the injury due to overheating of the ignition coil. So sometimes when the vehicles is running at a low speed for a longer period of time, so this ballast resistor has a necessary. So next is ignition coil. So ignition coil is the main body of the battery ignition system. So the purpose of the ignition coil is to step up the battery voltage to a high voltage. That is, it just like works like a transformer, which is sufficient to produce a spark at the spark plug. It consists of a magnetic core of software or sheet and two electrical winding called the primary winding and the secondary winding as the transformer. Next we have the contact breaker. So this is a mechanical device to making and breaking the primary circuit to ignition coil. When we have to on or off, in simple word, this contact breaker is used. When the points are closed, current flow in the ignition coil takes place, and when it open, flow of current stopped. Next, capacitor. So it is a simple electrical capacitor in which two metal plates are separated by an insulating material with a distance, just like general capacitor. So commonly air is used as an insulating material, but in particular technical requirement, some high quality insulating material is used. Next we have distributor. When we have this multi-cylinder engine, we will have same numbers of uh, spark plug, isn't it? So to the spark plug, we have to supply our pulse so that it produces the spark plug at a definite time and in a definite sequence, that is the correct sequence. So distributor distribute the ignition surge or the pulse in ignition spark plug in correct sequence. There are two types of distributor. One is carbon brush type and another is gap type. So let's take, after this we will have to discuss about the spark plug. So what is a spark plug? To ignite the fuel. So a spark is generally has two electrodes which are separated with each other. A high potential discharge flow through it which generate a spark and ignite the combustion mixture in cylinder. It's very simple. So let's check about the overview of this battery ignition system. So here is the battery, then with which is connected to the primary coil with the contactor, that is the switch, and the ballast resistor to prevent the battery ignition system from injury. So next it goes to the primary coil of this ignition switch. Next here is the capacitor is used. Next it goes to the distributor. So distributor will distribute the pulse or the surge in correct sequence to the spark plug. So this is generally the working principle of this battery ignition system.